Is translating your book and publishing that version really worth it? Hey, Joris here, and in today's podcast I want to talk to you a little bit about the possibility of having your book translated into a different language, and if it's actually worth it, what the costs are, and what my personal experience is with that. Now, as you can hear from my accent, and if you've been following us and our journey for quite a while now, then you know that I'm actually based in the Netherlands, and this company, Cutting Studio, is started out in the Netherlands. Now we are a worldwide company with like 35 people and designers worldwide, but I'm still here living here in the Netherlands, and I'm a traditional published author. I write like Stephen King type novels, and I've written about 15 of them till date. And about 4 years ago, I sat down with my publisher and I asked them if it was possible for my books to be translated. I had no clue how that worked, what you needed, and then what will happen afterwards. So we did some research, and we found out, of course, that even although I'm perfectly, I can speak English perfectly good, that although I can speak perfectly English, having actually my book translated will be a way better idea than actually translating the books myself. And of course, also for the time's sake, I mean, it takes a lot of time to actually rewrite the book and translate the book and actually typing everything out. So first and foremost, I needed, of course, a translator. That was not that easy. I mean, in English, it's doable because I speak English, I read English books, so I can see what the quality is of a translation. But my goal eventually was to have my books also out on like Italian and German and Portuguese, and that was a little bit harder because even when you find the right translators, and that was a little bit of a hassle, but when I actually found them, the problem then is that it's very hard then to see what the quality is of the translations that you're getting back. So that brings me to the first advice. If you want to have your books translated, translate it into a language that you are familiar of, that you at least can read yourself to judge the quality. Now, the other option is maybe you have friends and family that read and speak that language, and then they can help you out with the right quality. But I think that only works when that particular person has an understanding of your book, but also understanding of language in general, like grammar. And you need more than just like a friend that is telling you, yeah, it's okay. No, you really want somebody that can go in depth of the translation that, yeah, but this sentence doesn't really translate well. And I would change it, I would change that, to really see if the translator actually did his or her job correctly. So in my case, it was easy because I just started out with English, and then later one of my books is also translated in Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian. But again, those other languages, so beside the English one, I hardly do anything with it, to be honest. I mean, it's out there, and it brings some revenue in, but not as much. And the reviews are actually pretty good, although there are a few reviews that say, the translation could be better. And that was just a risk I had to take because it was very hard for me to find a translator that really knew what they were doing, and for me to test that. Plus, I didn't have a lot of a big budget. And that brings me to the second topic, budget, because having your book translated is very, very expensive, although it can be very expensive. I mean, if you actually find a translator that really knows what they're doing, and maybe they're even working with like the big publisher houses, then you can really spend a lot of money on that. So what I did is I had a budget, and I tried to work within that budget and find the best translator I could for that budget. The end result of that, especially with the other languages like Italian and Portuguese and Spanish, is that those books still have some issues in them, to be honest. Now, also, to be honest, a lot of readers don't care. They just want to read the story, like the story, and they will leave a good review. But you always have people that will get back to me via email or in a review that, yeah, I liked the story, it was really good, but it had some spelling errors here and there. So it's up to you to decide how much you want to spend and how important you find it that a book is flawless. Now, I personally don't believe a book can be flawless, but it's a choice you have to make. And also, it's a liability a bit. I mean, if you really want to push your book out, have a lot of marketing to do on those Spanish or Italian versions, and there's a lot of errors in it, it may actually work against you. In my case, I don't do a whole lot with those translated books. So it was just, to be honest, just to have those books in my bookshelf. And so if people come to me, I just only read Spanish, I can say, oh, I have a book out, you can check it out. But then hopefully when they like that version, they will find my English versions after that. So I primarily focused on the English language, of course, because a lot of people read English. I mean, even here in the Netherlands, because we're such a small country, more and more people who actually read English, because a lot of books out there are no longer being translated back to Dutch. So that group of English readers are actually getting bigger. And not only in the Netherlands, I see this trend going on around the world. So I just want to reach a bigger audience. And that's one of the reasons why you want to have your books translated, to reach a bigger audience. Now, if you already wrote your book in English, well, that's a big plus, of course. That's a big bonus. You already have the biggest group out there. But then if you want to reach even more people, then take a look at the locations of where big audiences are. So to give an example, you don't want to translate your book to Dutch because it's a very small country, and again, a lot of people read English anyway, so having your book out as a Dutch version, it doesn't really do anything for sales. However, the German market, depending on your genre, but the Germans are actually a big reader, and a lot of them like to read in German. So having your book out in a German market can actually work very well. Chinese is another one. It's again very hard to see what the translated book is in terms of the quality, but if you find a good translator and the quality is good, Chinese is actually a very good language to have your book translated in, because it's a huge market there, especially for certain genres like fiction, primarily like fantasy and science fiction. That's actually pretty big out there. So if you want to have your books translated, if you really want to sum everything up, first do your research, know what your budget is, but also know what you're going to do eventually with that book. I mean, just having a translated book out there and publish it somewhere without doing any marketing to it will hardly do anything for you. And case example is my Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian versions. They are hardly, I mean, I think I sell 10 or 20 copies per month. That's it, tops. While my English books are doing way more, but with my English books, I do like Amazon ads and Facebook ads, and I have like a whole marketing strategy behind that, email marketing, and yeah, so have that plan ready as well. So know what you're going to do eventually with it, and know why the reason you have for translating your book. I mean, that's very important. Just spending a lot of money just that so you can say, I have an English version out, or I have a German version out. It's all nice for your ego, but it doesn't really do anything, of course. So is translating your book worth it? Well, the answer is it can be. Again, it depends on your end goal. In my case, it really is, because again, I came from the Dutch versions now and have English versions, and with the English versions I'm reaching a whole lot a bigger audience. So for me it actually works, but if you already are an English speaking author and you already have your books out in English, I would say consider Chinese, you can consider German, but that's basically it, unless you know that your target audience really is reading in those particular languages. Or maybe if you have a business and you're using your book as like a lead magnet to your business, and you know that your ideal customer is, I don't know, in Brazil or in Argentina or whatever, then you might want to consider actually having a Spanish version out as well. So I hope that was helpful. This was it for today's podcast, and I'll see you